Hey and welcome to the first Notion template here on Noext, my side hustle where I'm absolutely Notion obsessed. So this is the first one, but also probably the most powerful system that I use in Notion. It is about tracking your time. And if you're watching this, you're probably used to your calendar being in Outlook or in Google. Well, this is kind of similar, but it has some extra advantages that make it super powerful. So for starters, I use Notion Calendar instead of Google Calendar or Outlook, for instance. I've used those other ones, but really like this one. And it's not only because I'm just Notion obsessed, it is also because it has one specific feature that no other calendar has. It can integrate their databases from Notion in the calendar. And what that practically means is that you have access to your calendar data in different ways and can visualize it. So in a sense, a calendar is nothing else than a database in a specific temporal, if you will, visualization. But we can use that data in other ways. So here you see my Notion calendar. It has a bunch of colors, and it is because those colors are for different databases. I'll come back to that later. The blue one is the most important. That is my work. So if I do some work, I make a block, I give it a name, and that's it. It works just like your normal calendar. But now we go to Notion, and here you see the same color again with work. So that is the database that one was connected to. And here in the view all, you see basically the same stuff that is in the calendar, but just in a table. And this is where the advantage starts. So look over here. If I go to this week, we have a circle diagram that shows the amount of hours we have worked this week. And we can also tell in what type of activities we spent those hours. So here you see another graph that goes over several weeks, and we can compare them that way. And so you can imagine there are tons of ways you can visualize your own activity, to analyze it, and to keep track of where all your time is actually going. And the really important thing here, what I focused on when making this, is that it doesn't cost too much time, because that would be really counterintuitive, having a time tracking system that takes a lot of fucking time. So if I go back to the Notion calendar, if I make a block and I give it a name, I'll give it a test as a name for now, then I can select the calendar here, and that's it. And now it will appear in the table, but it will have a few properties missing. So if I go back and I go to what I've called time tagging, you see a few rows that have some items missing, and mainly the activity type. And when I fill this in, you will see that it disappears. And that is because this particular view is filtered on rows that are not fully completed. So if you always make the time tagging view empty, you will be up to date. And that is how I manage to keep on track. So that is basically all that is to the system. In my personal system, which will also be coming soon here at some point, is the integration of another database, a project database. Because you can imagine, if you could connect the hours to a project, you can trace how many hours you put in that project, and well, it is just really powerful, even though it's so simple. But that is not in here now. Something else is though, and that is health, chores and travel. So first, when I created this, I had just the blue one, and it was basically everything. But what I noticed is that it's kind of unnecessary and annoying, even if you have to time tag, as I call it, things like working out, cooking, cleaning, traveling, because you don't really need to specify that. And that is done automatically, because if I just select it in the calendar, well, it lands in this database, which just means that it is a workout. And as you can see, this database is a lot more simple. It only has the activity with the name, and that's the one you fill in the calendar. The date will be automatically filled by the calendar as well. Then we calculate the amount of hours, and if you want, you can add a file. You don't need to, it's just an option. The exact same goes for chores and travel. And as you could see in the database, because of the colors, it's also very nicely visualized, and you can see in one go when you need to do something and when you actually need to travel. Crucial is that this should actually be accurate. So I use this to plan, obviously, which means I could forecast with statistics, but it's also used to track, which means that it needs to be accurate to the time you have actually done things. So that means that when I plan in a block and it actually takes a little bit shorter, I shorten it afterwards. And that is not actually that much work. I can just pick one of these blocks and make them longer and shorter, that's it. Like I said before, I had everything in a single database. And that had one thing going for it, because in that way I could visualize the amount of hours I spent traveling or maybe cleaning and compare that to work. That could in some cases be interesting, I suppose. I have found that for me it's mostly useful to just track my work activities, but it can be interesting. So what I've built to accomplish that, but also keep these separate, is the everything together database. This database is basically a replicate of the work database, except for it has a few more activity types, like chores, working out, and what was the other one? I forget. Oh, personal travel time. And that is because all of the databases, if you make a row, it also adds it to this one. And because it comes from a particular database, it also knows automatically to tag it with a workout or chores, for instance. That way we circumvent to having the time tag things like travel and chores, but still can see everything in one view and also see the statistics, for instance. So that is the first Notion template here on Noext. Well, I hope you like it. I hope you find it useful. If you find any bugs or have any questions, well, let me know in the comments. Like I said, there will likely be updates in the future because I would love to add projects in like I have in my personal database. And until the next time.